So yeah, thanks for agreeing to be a part of this Digital Her project. I'm gonna hop into introducing it for anyone who's watching this video. So Digital Her is sponsored by the Institute of Coding, who, as I'm sure you know, objective is to break down barriers to digital learning and employment more broadly. And out of that, Digital Her has a focus on helping to inform and engage younger girls and women who are considering their future career paths and might not know that there is a perfect role in tech for them, because of what you see from the outside. It can be a lot different to your experiences when you're within the community. So through talking to people like yourself, we hope to sort of share some experiences and stories. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what it is you do at the moment?
Okay, so I'm Rosie Bennett, and I work for SETsquared as the investment manager. So that's across a portfolio of about 200 companies through our local regional incubators that attach to universities, or a scale-up program which we currently run, which is about companies that are on the growth path, so going for later stage funding. But it's all about innovation, really, and it's all about companies that are at that cutting edge of tech.
Yeah, nice. What skills would you say you use the most in your day-to-day life job?
So let me roll back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to talk about that?
Yeah, so the next question is your journey.
Oh, right, okay. So what do I use every day? So communication probably is the biggest skill I have, I think, because a lot of what I do is about talking to people and understanding where they are with their business, but also where they are as entrepreneurs or investors. Like when I'm talking to investors, and it's about matchmaking. So it's about pulling together people with aligned interests to accelerate innovation. So to help companies get funded, to help funders find great companies and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so you're a facilitator then. So
Yes.
could you tell us about how your journey began right back to educational days when you were doing like your earliest exams? Were you interested in tech then?
So I was at school during the 80s, in the Stranger Things era, and tech was very much at the frontier level then. So it was really exciting. So we had video games on Atari, and we were playing Space Invaders in the arcades rather than at home. And it was an exciting time, and I think if you were interested in tech at that time, it was the geeky thing to do. It was the niche thing to do. My dad was very interested in computers, so we had a computer in the house very early on. We had a ZX81, which is one of the early home computers, and I used to spend my Saturdays coding it, typing out from magazines little games, and playing them on the computer. So that's where I started. At school, I did art, so I did history and literature. So I was never a science person at school. And when I went to university, it was to do American studies, mainly because you got a year in America as part of the degree. So that's where I started in terms of education.
Yeah. Whereabouts in America did you go?
When I
Oh, sorry.
Well, interestingly, I went to Chicago and Colorado, but then I spent the summer in San Francisco, which was really exciting because the friend I was with, his dad worked at UCL, and they had a computer in their house that had the internet on it, and so this is going way back to, late 80s, early 90s. So really extraordinary, and it was one of he would have been one of the few people with the internet.
Wow.
So it really my interest, yeah. And so when I got back to UK, I finished my degree, And then I did a master's in broadcast journalism, which led me to a job at the BBC in Manchester.
Yeah.
And that, and I was, my claim to fame was I was the first person in Manchester BBC to get the internet on my computer, which cost £2,000 at the
Wow.
time, because it was a big expense to get it set up. But I realised, very early on that it was really key. It was really key to what I was doing, researching TV programs. It was all about, the future was coming. Um, so I made a sideways move and I went to work at BBC Online. Very early days. So it's before we had a content management system. We were actually coding ourselves. We had to learn HTML to work on websites. Um, and one of my things that I did there was launch Top of the Pops website. So that was very exciting.
Oh, that's so cool.
So yeah, I spent 2 years interviewing Kylie Minogue and Spice Girls and people, doing live web chats from behind the scenes at Top of the Pops.
Wow, that's so interesting. um, how,
Well, yeah, that was my route in actually.
yeah, yeah,
So I think just kind of going back to that, for me, and early days of tech were it was a crossover from other industries. So for me, I came at it as a journalist, and about content and about communication. So that was my route in. I wasn't a techie. I did learn to code, but that's because it was part of the job.
yeah,
Um, and I think so. So where I see tech is it being about innovation, and I know that we've moved on a lot since then,
mhm,
and tech is very mainstream. So there are many routes into tech, and if you're interested in, you know, getting a job as a coder or working in a big organisation, then there's obviously many jobs within that and in communications as well, in social media marketing and all of that. But I think for me the most interesting bit about tech is the innovation side and the way that it gives you um, a real it empowers you to innovate.
yeah,
And I think where I first felt that was probably going back again is being able to set up websites. I mean, it's incredible how you have access to a global marketplace.
mm,
So now you have the tools, you can sell on Etsy, you can sell on Depop, and
yeah,
all these things. It's just amazing that you can use technology to access that global marketplace. Um, and that's very empowering. It's very empowering for a teenager, very empowering for a young person. And I've got teenager daughters now, and I watch them. And one of my daughters got into coding through Minecraft,
yeah,
and and that kind of community that those tools bring. It's all fantastic, and I think going back to that empowerment,
yeah.
that's where I see tech as being really exciting.
Mm. I think it's so easy to take it for granted, like you said about selling things on Depop. I don't even take like a second thought about using those kind of tools, but when you hash back to where it all came from, and yeah, when you couldn't, like you say, it wasn't all at your fingertips. Um, and I know so many people now who just do like weird little things on the internet, like make money from like building like these websites and then selling them on. There's a lot of opportunity that I think is that also at school there isn't such, they don't open you up to, well, from my experience anyway, to these opportunities. Like you really do have to go out there and find it out yourself. So what was your sort of
Yeah,
crossover?
I think so, but also, sorry.
That's okay. No, you go ahead.
No, so I just wanted to add to that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that having a side hustle is always really key, and I would encourage anyone to have a side hustle. And technology is a route to doing that. And I think in this era of we all have portfolio careers now, we probably all swap careers every 10 years, and I think that's really healthy because the world changes very quickly. And when you're at school, your careers advisor or whatever, they're only going to help you into your first career because actually you've got multiple careers coming after that. So upskilling yourself, whether you're interested in technology or not, always means that you can probably make money.
Yeah.
um, I used to have this side hustle, which is a blog called The Savvy Earner, which is all about how you can make money on the side. And and I think it's the way to go.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's just so many, yeah, so many different things you can do. What was your sort? How did you then cross over from interviewing Spice Girls to getting into proper tech innovation and where you are today?
I got a call from a company in Amsterdam who were setting up a tech team to build content. They're called portals, but it was basically setting up entertainment websites and stuff for a big cable company, which turned out to be, long story short, it's now what Virgin Media is in the UK. So it was and Sky, and
Yeah.
so it's the Dutch equivalent. So I went over there and I worked in Amsterdam for 3 years. I had a complete ball. It was fantastic, and it was at a stage as well where tech was becoming much more um, uh, influential in how music and how media was being consumed.
Mm.
So it was before pre-Spotify, but there were illegal Spotify type
Yeah.
websites like Napster that were everywhere. So we were trying to figure out where these companies were going to go with internet, because the companies that were illegal were becoming legal.
Mm.
So it was all really interesting time, and for the music industry and for entertainment industry, the whole licensing issue, and how to then monetize music. How do you make money out of stuff that's free? And
Mm.
I think that's becoming, it's very mainstream now. People expect to get stuff for free on the internet, and so it's a real challenge to business models. And I
Mm.
think because of that, I became interested in the whole business behind technology.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, was there anything that inspired you to go into tech whilst you were making decisions about your career path?
I think so. I don't think I ever made decisions about my career path.
Yeah.
I think my career's always evolved, and to me, it's all about people you meet, and those people become they open the doors for you, they give you the inspiration. So I think I can probably name people who to me were hugely inspirational. Martha Lane Fox, who started lastminute.com, when I'm probably the same age as her, and when
Yeah.
I was starting out in the early days of tech, she was launching one of the most, still one of the most famous startups,
Yeah.
and so she was a real icon. So other people like that as well, who I've been influenced by, probably people at work. And I think having mentors and having people that you respect in your team or in your wider workplace is really key. So I would seek those people out, and I would also join networking. I loved networking. I'd go to any meetup I could.
Yeah.
I would just try and find people, and I think probably because I was a journalist, I was interested in people, so I always used to
Yeah.
ask people where they were from and what they did and how they got to
Yeah.
what they were doing, and it's interested.
Yeah. Maybe that's good advice for people who don't particularly like networking. Try and get into the mindset of a journalist after that, just for a little bit. um,
I think it's really important, and I think the key to networking is asking questions.
mm,
Because if you go to an event, you generally feel a bit nervous about talking to people because you think, oh my god, they're going to ask me stuff that I can't answer. But for me, it's about going on the offensive. It's
yeah,
like be the person that asks the questions, be
yeah,
interested.
yeah. So true. Just have a couple like note down before you go in there. Um,
Yeah.
have you faced any challenges along the way? Uh, this is obviously quite a broad question, but from anything to being a woman in tech to just a particular job that you found like technically challenging or whatever you.
So I think the biggest challenge of being a woman in tech is being in a kind of male-dominated environment, so that you don't get noticed,
Mm.
or you get noticed for the wrong reasons. So it's how to get noticed for the right reasons, and it's how good you are at your job and where you should go next in terms of your career path. Um, so I remember getting very frustrated and thinking I'm being passed over for the good projects. I'm not, and maybe it's they think I'm not technical enough.
Mm.
Maybe they think I'm not good enough at writing content, or I'm not getting noticed by the senior people. So I remember how I did this. it was a real pivotal moment. There was a football team in my workplace, um, and so I joined the football team. We played five-a-side at lunchtimes, and I was the only girl playing, and I was really bad. But what I was good at was writing up the match report after.
Yeah.
And the match report, I did it, I made it funny, I made it a comedy match report, and it got emailed to the whole company, including the CEO, and it got me noticed.
Yeah.
And I think it's little things like that that you get. You have to find that little trigger. You have to put your hand up for all the jobs you might get passed over, but you keep putting your hand up. And offering jobs up, offering new projects, and saying, what? How about I do this? How about I do that? And I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I guess it's sometimes frustrating having to having to do that in the first place. Do you think that the tech sector is doing enough to encourage diversity and inclusion?
No. No, of course it isn't.
Yeah.
There's always more to do. Always more to do. Um, and I think there's a danger of there's too many ideas, and it distracts from actually getting on and doing stuff.
Mm.
I'm all for quotas. I'm all for just trying people out.
Yeah.
Take risks. Um, so I don't know. For me, it's about women being in charge, and I think that's about that will only come over time, because the more women that come through as tech leaders and entrepreneurs, they will then bring more women into it. When I took over the running the Bath Innovation Centre,
Mm.
we had no women in our mentor pool of around 50 people. So
Mm.
over the 7 years, I make that 50-50 mix, and it's just making the effort.
Yeah.
And I think if you're not a woman in a senior position, you don't notice. You don't there isn't the same awareness. So I think it's got to go top down.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think as well that we're seeing like more and more how that affects BME people as well. Um, and yeah, like you said, it's when you kind of think of yourself in different situations and you experience the world as whatever you identify as, and it is hard to put yourself outside of that experience because you just don't, not by any fault of who you are, but acknowledge and think about how other people experience the world just because they look or present a different way. So like you said, I think that is definitely the most important, like having a diverse group of people in charge on the top layer is ultimately going to change things a lot underneath.
I think that's really important, but I also think data is really important, and the power of data to show you what's missing in a real a way you can't argue with,
Yeah.
and then there's lots of amazing tools now about how to combat unconscious bias and in recruitment, things like that, and I think all that stuff's really incredible and really useful.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of conversation around data at the moment, and that was something that we talked about at the Bristol Business Festival today, that data and using it ethically and sort of the tech for good businesses are really what we're going to see emerging, and hopefully for the better. um has your view of the sector changed across the course of your career?
Um, yes, undoubtedly, just because I've been in it for 25 years, and technology has transformed the business landscape and social, everything.
Mm.
Um, so I think, in terms of coming my roots in broadcasting content, it's going from analog to digital was a massive disruption, a massive change. Um, and I think in terms of the workplace, interesting how the COVID crisis is forcing us to work from home, which I think is a massive, almost a revolution in how we can potentially run our lives. I do worry for people starting out in their careers, because I think, going back to that whole having mentors and people that you work with, I think if you don't have that, that's hard. So yeah, I think technology has changed our society, but by because of outside events, but also because of the innovations that happened.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes space for so many different careers to come in and continue to shape that. Um, what is your favorite thing about working in tech?
My favourite thing is meeting innovators and entrepreneurs, especially young innovators. So people with a real passion for using technology to change what we things that we take for granted. I think TechSPARK is a fantastic movement. I work with a lot of companies that have got that agenda, and what is exciting is it's becoming mainstream. So it's not, hopefully we'll get to a stage where we don't have tech for good, we just have tech, and it encompasses everything that at the moment is called for good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I think that's for me, tech and my job is a way for me to meet fantastic people with great ideas.
For sure. And I feel like as the younger generation move through and start their careers, I do think there is like a really huge consciousness about working with ethical companies. And I don't know if this is because of sort of social media, how it like outs everything. And you don't get the same. I know that you have your echo chamber, so what I see is probably maybe quite different to what a lot of people see. But you don't have the filtered news that you get through mainstream media channels. So I think every businesses are getting called out left, right, and centre for anything unethical that they do, which has its negatives and its positives for sure. Um, do you have any notable projects that you worked on that kind of stand out to you as being one of your favorites?
So I had my startup, but that probably isn't one of it. I, I did a startup which didn't quite get where I wanted it to go. No, so I have my URL is itgirls.com. So
Yeah.
I've owned that URL for 20 years, and we've done various things through it.
Mm-hmm.
My latest was the IT Girls Collaborative. So it's basically it was a networking forum and a meetup for women and young women and students, and I'm trying to create a real cross generation group, because I think that's really important more than ever now that we're all dispersed and having to work from home again, to have those conversations and to learn from each other. And I've got, going back to the young innovators and the people that inspire me, I think there's a really good synergy between somebody like me that's been doing this for 25 years and for other people coming through that have got fantastic ambition and mission. So that IT Girls group was set up to try and to help support those conversations.
Yeah. Was that the startup that you made or not?
No, I had a startup which was a peer-to-peer startup called Store
Yeah.
Next Door. So we were the Airbnb for storage.
Oh, okay.
There are a number of startups now. Stashbee being the big one, who
Mhm.
just raised over $1 million on crowdfunding. But they're doing brilliantly. So we were that, but we were too early, and we didn't make it.
Yeah, right idea, wrong time. But I guess that it shows the
Yeah,
reality.
it's all about.
Yeah, there's always.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard, and sometimes innovation it can be however good your idea, if you can't monetize it and you can't create a sustainable business, then it's just an idea.
Yeah, very true. And yeah, there's there's a lot of stages to making a successful business anyway, and kind of, yeah, just goes to show throughout someone's career you have peaks and troughs throughout, and it's very you talk about like the great things that people have done, and that's really positive and inspiring, but it's also really interesting to hear about the failures of people, for sure. And it helps you
I
grow.
think you learn more from the failures.
Mm, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you learn more from the failures really, because they give you insight. Because part of failing, you try not to fail, so you do so much kind of research and thinking and strategizing, to try and stop yourself failing. That actually, even though you fail, you come out of that very well informed about what you should do next time. Really.
Yeah, exactly. It's fact of life, part of the process. Sure. Um, so lastly, what would your advice be to young women and girls starting their careers and considering a future in tech?
I think I would not plan too much. I would try and upskill as broad as possible. Be very open to conversations with anyone really. Ask people about their own careers. Ask people how they got to where they were, but also set yourself a goal. What is the ideal job? And it may seem like a big jump from where you are now to getting to that stage, but if you can identify a path, then you start on that path, and you probably get distracted on the way and do something else. But it's always good to have a goal. But yeah, it's about the journey, isn't it? Ultimately, you're going to have a number of careers, and
Yeah,
hopefully, when you get bored of one, do a new one.
yeah. I've heard a lot of people talking about upskilling recently. Do you think you could sort of explain a little bit more about what that looks like? Because I feel like sometimes it's sort of a keyword that people use, and then I'm like, what does it actually mean and entail?
So 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 upskilling to me is about broadening your skills rather than a linear progression.
Mhm.
So for me, one of the most important things for especially women to do is to do public speaking.
Yeah.
And so something like that, you probably think that I can't go and learn that, but actually you can, because you can really push yourself.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily a course, but it's you can set yourself a goal, and that to me is upskilling. It's about making yourself resilient, making yourself confident, finding the edge, so that when an opportunity comes along, you're there.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Great, that's really helpful. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. It's been super insightful. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and yeah, good luck to everyone.